Hello everyone and welcome to the course on bicycle mechanic, premium and e-bicycles. The name of this module is Servicing and Maintenance of Bicycle and we are at unit 5.4 which is Servicing and Maintenance of Drivetrain. Without further ado, let us start the session. Objectives of the unit. At the end of this unit, you will be able to identify common problems related to bicycle drivetrain and know their causes, adjust front and rear derailleurs, troubleshoot gear shifting related problems, perform servicing of a crankset, remove and install a cassette, repair a broken chain, clean a chain, crankset and cassette. Servicing and maintenance of drivetrain. The front and rear derailleurs shift the chain smoothly between the sprockets and chain rings. Therefore, both derailleurs need to be in perfect alignment with the chainring. Both derailleurs and the jockey pulley must be checked for any issues and lubricated regularly. Gear shifting is done by gear cables. Hence, these cables are always in tension. They should also be inspected regularly. They need to be changed regularly and lubricated. Drivetrain-related problems and their causes. Some problems are: chain does not shift onto a smaller sprocket or chainring, chain does not shift onto a larger sprocket or chainring, slow gear shifting, chain jumps on sprockets when pressure is applied to pedals, chain falls off chainring, chain rubs on the front or rear derailleur, excessive noise when shifting gears. Causes might be: grit has lodged inside the cable housing, lubrication in cable housing has dried up, derailleur is misaligned, shifter is misaligned, gear cable has stretched, chain has a stiff link, chain has stretched in length, chain or sprocket is worn, chainring has bent, bottom bracket is worn, axle of bottom bracket has bent. How to adjust front and rear derailleurs. Front derailleur. Slightly loosen the clamp bolt holding the clamp in place using an Allen key. Wiggle it around to get the correct adjustment. Note that the front derailleur should not be too inside or too outside from the chainring. Align the center of the front derailleur with the center of the chainring. The front derailleur should also not be too higher than the chainring, otherwise the chain will not shift and will make noise while shifting gears. Keep a clearance of about 3 mm between the front derailleur and the largest sprocket. After adjusting the position of the front derailleur, tighten the clamp bolt. Rear derailleur. Keep a clearance of about 5 mm between the jockey pulley and the sprocket. Adjust the bolt of the bracket tension, the B bolt, to maintain the clearance of 5 mm. Note that tightening the bracket tension bolt increases this gap and loosening the bolt decreases it. How to fix problems related to shifting of gears. Problem 1. If the chain is not shifting onto the sprocket or the chain is falling off the sprocket, adjust limit bolts of the derailleur. These bolts are marked as L, low bolt, and H, high bolt. For front derailleur. If the chain is falling off the smallest sprocket and onto the frame, tighten the L bolt. If the chain is not shifting onto the smallest sprocket, loosen the L bolt. If the chain is falling off the largest sprocket, tighten the H bolt. If the chain is not shifting onto the largest sprocket, loosen the H bolt. For rear derailleur. If the chain is falling off the largest sprocket and onto the frame, tighten the L bolt. If the chain is not shifting onto the largest sprocket, loosen the H bolt. If the chain is falling off the smallest sprocket, tighten the H bolt. If the chain is not shifting onto the smallest sprocket, loosen the H screw. After adjusting the bolts, shift both front and rear gears several times to check if gears are working properly. Problem 2. Check the gear cable if gears are shifting slow. Shift the chain onto the largest sprocket of the rear gear and the smallest sprocket of the front gear. Loosen the cable clamp bolt and pull the gear cable tight. Retighten the clamp bolt. The cable tension can also be adjusted by rotating the barrel adjuster mounted on the shifter. Now check by shifting all gears. Problem 3. Gear shifting problems can often be caused by worn, frayed, or kinked gear cable and cable housing. Check gear cable and housing and replace if they are damaged. Apply lubricant to gear cable and housing. How to service a crankset. Required tools: spanner, crankset puller, oils, greases and degreasers, clean, dry rags, personal protective equipment. Using a spanner, remove the crank arm from the opposite side of the chainring. Insert a crank puller into the cap at the center of the bottom bracket shell and remove the chainring along with the crank arm. Remove the spindle of the bottom bracket with the bottom bracket remover and a spanner. Apply degreaser inside the bottom bracket shell. Apply degreaser to the bearings and cups of the bottom bracket spindle as well. Wipe thoroughly the bottom bracket shell, bottom bracket spindle and cups with a clean, dry cloth. Make sure that the degreaser is completely wiped off. Apply grease to the bearings and cups of the bottom bracket spindle. Insert the bottom bracket spindle into the shell and tighten it with a socket spanner. Apply grease to the crank arm on the opposite side of the chainring. Attach the crank arm to the spindle and then fasten the dust cap. Apply grease to the chainring and the spindle. Attach the chainring to the spindle. While attaching chainring, make sure that both the crank arms are in opposite directions of each other. Secure the chainring bolt with the spanner. Check both pedals. If they are loose, tighten them with the spanner. Rotate the pedals several times to check if the chain is spinning smoothly. How to remove a cassette and install. Required tools: spanner, freewheel remover, chain whip, personal protective equipment. Clamp the bicycle in a work stand and remove the rear wheel from the bicycle. Using a spanner, open the lock ring and remove it. Remove the cassette with a spanner and a freewheel remover. Place the new cassette on the spindle and tighten the lock ring. Put the wheel back on the bicycle and tighten the bolts on both sides with the spanner. How to fix a broken chain. A chain tool or chain extractor will be required to repair a broken chain. Join the pins of broken links together. Tighten these links using the chain tool. Spin the chain to check if it runs freely. How to clean a chain, crankset and cassette. Required tools: degreaser, oil and grease, cleaning brush, clean dry rags, chain cleaning tool, personal protective equipment. Spray degreaser on the crankset. Scrub the teeth of all the sprockets on the crankset with a chain cleaning brush. Make sure that the gaps between sprockets are also well cleaned. Wipe thoroughly with a clean, dry cloth in between all of the crankset sprockets. Be careful not to let the degreaser leave anywhere, otherwise these parts may get rusted. Repeat the same process to clean the cassette and chain. Brush the jockey wheel, rear and front derailleur as well, and then wipe thoroughly with a clean, dry cloth. The chain can also be cleaned with a chain cleaning tool. Place the chain inside the tool and clean the chain by rotating it. Then wipe the chain with a clean, dry cloth. Spin the chain and apply oil on it. Pay extra attention not to use oil in excess. Wipe the excess oil with a cloth. The problems related to the drivetrain system and their solutions.
Now, we will talk about the next component system, which is known as the drivetrain system, which is basically the heart of the bicycle. It is made up of various components. Let's talk about its components. The first component is the shifter, which is mounted on the handlebar. The second component is the front derailleur, which is mounted on the seat tube. The third component is the rear derailleur, which is mounted on the drop end of the chain steering. The fourth component is the freewheel. The fifth component is the chain wheel or the crankset. And the sixth component is the chain, and it is used to operate all the mechanisms of the drivetrain system. Now the most common issue that occurs in this system is that the gear is not shifting. There can be many reasons for a gear not shifting. Possible reasons can be that the position of the cable of the shifter is not correct. The alignment of the front derailleur is not correct. The position or the alignment of the RD hanger is not correct. The chain has elongated or shortened due to wear and tear, or that it has moved from its place. All these can be the reasons that the drivetrain system is not working properly. Now, we'll further show you how to identify these issues and then correct them.
How to clean the chain and the cassette. With the help of the brush used to clean the cassette and the chain, clean the sprocket by rubbing it thoroughly. Make sure to clean between the sprockets too. Clean the jockey wheel and the rear derailleur too. Clean the chain by putting it between the device used to clean the chain. As you can see here, all the dust and dirt has accumulated inside the box. Clean the chain with a clean, dry cloth. Now, we'll clean the chain set. With the help of the brush, clean the sprocket of the chain ring. After cleaning it with a brush, clean the chain set and the front derailleur with a clean, dry cloth. Now we'll oil the chain. Pour oil on the chain while rotating it. Make sure not to use too much oil. How to repair a broken chain. As you can see here, this chain is broken. Now we'll repair it. Attach the two broken chain links to each other. Tighten these links with the help of a chain extractor. Rotate the chain to see if it's working properly. How to repair a loose paddle. As you can see here, the paddle has gotten loose and is moving in its place. Tighten the paddle with the help of the spanner until it stops moving. How to do servicing of the crankset. Remove the chainring with the help of the crank puller and the spanner. Remove the bottom bracket spindle with the help of the bottom bracket remover and the spanner. The loosening of the bottom bracket or not applying grease on it may be a cause of noise while paddling. Now we'll clean it and apply grease to it. Spray the degreaser spray inside the bottom bracket shell. Also, apply the spray to the bearing and the cup of the bottom bracket. Degreaser removes the previous grease. After this, clean the bottom bracket shell, the bottom bracket cup and the spindle with the help of a clean, dry cloth. Make sure there is no degreaser left anywhere, else it can ruin the parts. Apply grease on the cup and bearing of the bottom bracket bearing. Fix the bottom bracket spindle inside the shell and tighten the cup. Tighten the spindle with the help of the spanner. Apply grease on the crank arm. Join the crank arm with the spindle and tighten it. Apply grease on the chainring and the spindle. Attach the chainring to the spindle. Make sure that both pedals are in opposite directions of each other. Tighten the nut of the chainring with the help of the spanner. Rotate the chain to see if it's working properly. How to do service of the front derailleur. Pay attention that the front derailleur is in its correct position. It should not be on the outside or on the inside. It should be on the sides of the teeth of the chain. It should not be too high, otherwise the chain will not shift. Keep a gap of 3 mm between the front derailleur and the crankset. Keep the front derailleur in a straight line to the chain. After correcting the position of the front derailleur, tighten it. How to do service of the rear derailleur. As you can see here, the screw of the bracket tension has loosened, which is why the jockey pulley is touching the cassette ring. Keep a distance of 5 mm between the jockey pulley and the cassette frame. Adjust the screw of the bracket tension to maintain this 5 mm distance. Tightening the bracket tension screw increases this gap. And loosening the screw decreases the gap. As you can see here, the chain is not shifting downwards. To correct this, we loosen the screw on the upper side or the edge screw. Make sure that you don't loosen the screw too much, or the chain will be removed from the sprocket and will clash with the frame. How to fix and remove the cassette and the freewheel. Fix the cycle on the work stand and remove the back wheel from the cycle. Remove the screws of the spindle with the help of the spanner. Remove the cassette with the help of the spanner and the freewheel remover. To remove the cassette from the second type of wheel, use a chain whip along with the spanner and the freewheel remover. Attach the new cassette with the spindle. Tighten the screws of the spindle. Attach the wheel back to the cycle and tighten the screws on both sides with the help of the spanner. Let's recap what we have learned from the video. Main components of the drivetrain, the problems that occur in the drivetrain, cleaning the chain and cassette, repairing a broken chain, repairing a loosened panel, servicing the crankset, servicing of the front and rear derailleur, removing and attaching the cassette. Thank you.